Welcome, everyone, to the Thanksgiving Day preview show with a little bit of Black Friday action sprinkled in there from the 33rd team. We're going to be talking betting and DFS for each of these four games. We'll talk about how to approach just the general Thanksgiving DFS slate for those three games, discuss some matchups, and you might even get a few underdog fantasy higher lower picks along the way. We're going to dive right in. I'm Josh Larky. He's Ryan Reynolds. And on my other side is Jordan Vanek. Let's talk about Green Bay at Detroit. A nice little divisional matchup in the NFC North. The game total is pretty healthy at 47.5 points. And the Lions are now more than touchdown favorites. It is -7.5. This might be our actual best game of the slate. Ryan, what are you looking for on the Green Bay side here?
Yeah, I don't have very much confidence in the Packers offense whatsoever. So from a Lions play standpoint, Packers offensive line's okay. I wouldn't frame the Lions pass rush as a premium pass rush, but they do beat up on weaker units. So, and they've surged a few times over the past couple of years. I could see that happening in this spot. I don't really have any faith in the Packers offense though in general.
Yeah, a couple notes for the Packers. Aaron Jones almost certainly missing this game. Third string running back Emmanuel Wilson is also hurt. So it's going to be most likely a big A.J. Dillon, healthy dose of him on Thanksgiving. Jordan, let's talk about the Packers from a DFS perspective. Do you share similar sentiment to Ryan that there's not much excitement to be had from this team in particular?
Well, there's not much excitement as like a overall explosion game for them here, but in a 3-game slate, they're not expensive. Like Romeo Doubs is the highest priced receiver at 5K, and like from a matchup standpoint, Detroit the first time they played ran 2 coverages at a 70% clip. They were comfortable staying in these coverages because the defense line was winning and getting there. And against these 2 specific coverages, which is cover 4 and cover 3 sky, Romeo Doubs has a 30% target share and a 43% target share. He's been targeted on all the routes pretty much against this look. He's not going to be extremely popular this week because, again, you just said it best. They're not exactly a great team, but they're going to be losing. They're going to be throwing, and Romeo Doubs should be on the receiving end there.
Let's now turn to the Detroit Lions side of things. A lot more excitement here. We have the dual running back tandem. Jameson Williams starting to get a little bit more involved. Amon-Ra St. Brown, our coworker, is having a phenomenal third season. Ryan, what are you looking for out of this Lions team at home?
Lions have arguably the best offensive line in football. Green Bay's a weak run defense. I think this is a David Montgomery game personally, especially if they play in a positive game script like we expect. In general, Detroit they probably have the most well-balanced offense in the league. Top 5 in passing yards, top 5 in rushing yards. So they technically can beat you in either phase, but I like David Montgomery in particular in this matchup.
Jordan, do you have a preference out of the 2 running backs for DFS, and what are their prices?
David Montgomery is at 63 and Jahmyr Gibbs is 68. Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, just from an explosion standpoint, I felt like Eckler had carries where he could have broken the long run. He couldn't get up to the top speed. I don't know if he's playing through still that ankle injury or what the case is, but there were a few carries last week, and that could have been 50-plus yard touchdowns that he pulled back on. That obviously is Gibbs, but on a 3-game slate, you can get different by playing both of them. They both have avenues to be great players in this matchup. They both have produced in the last 2 weeks with the roles that they're getting, and it's kind of taken away from that passing offense. Like Laporta's been less, I guess, boom lately, and it's nothing about him. It's just the situation they have at that running back position and guys like Jameson Williams coming to the lineup. For me at receiver with the Detroit Lions, if you think back to all the drops the Chargers just had, Jameson Williams on those routes seemed to be the guy that would win down the field. If you get Jair back for the Packers, I think he's got to shadow Amon-Ra, which should open the door for Jameson Williams. And again, these running backs are both fine plays in DFS.
And then looking at the quarterback position, Jordan, do you have any interest in Jared Goff stack specifically, or are we going to wait till potentially the next game to discuss who's going to really be heavily in your quarterback pool?
I don't love Jared Goff this week just because they're going to be able to beat him on the ground. And they played on what, like 60 hours of game planning. Jared Goff's coming off his worst day as a passer. They know they don't have to throw the ball to beat this squad. I think it's going to be a heavy day on the ground. And like, I expect Goff to probably put up like a 200 to, 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns maybe, but mostly getting it done on the ground. So not much interest in Goff.
I agree there. Folks, we're sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Promo code 33RD33rd. You get your 100% deposit match up to $100. We're going to be building a pick'em entry throughout this show. And the first entry is going to be Jordan Love higher than 33.5 passing attempts. The Packers are 7.5-point underdogs. Game scripts in their favor to throw the ball. As I mentioned before, 2 of their 3 running backs are injured. It's all A.J. Dillon. He just had 51 snaps, 18 touches on Sunday. Now he plays 4 days later. Quarterbacks against Detroit are 7 and 3 on the higher. The 3 who missed were Justin Fields. He ran 18 times this past week and had positive game script. Jimmy Garoppolo in the disastrous Monday Night Football game where the whole coaching staff got fired. And then Lamar Jackson, who is also highly mobile like Justin Fields. Underdog Fantasy promo code 33rd. Jordan Love higher than 33.5 passing attempts. Guys, any final thoughts on this game before we move on to the NFC East divisional matchup?
I'm going to give a teaser leg for each Thanksgiving, a 3-team tease. I don't usually do these. This is Thanksgiving slates, one of the few action slates I play. So I play a 3-game 10-point teaser every year. I'm going to take the Lions as the first leg of my teaser.
There we go. Let's turn to the Washington Commanders at the Dallas Cowboys. Another high game total, 48.5, with most of the scoring projected to come from Dallas. They are 11-point favorites in this matchup. We, at least in this game, fortunately, once again, we have 2 healthy quarterbacks. We've got Sam Howell going on the road against Dak Prescott. Howell was taking sacks at a truly historic rate earlier in the season and has since slowed down the pace. He's going to need to keep that pace slowed against the Cowboys front. Ryan, what are you looking at here from Sam Howell and company?
I mean, a bit of a bounce back spot for Washington's offense, potentially. That's their best path to sticking in this game. My primary concern is Dallas's pass rush has a massive trench advantage in this matchup against Washington. Howell could take another 5 sacks. He could get back on that league record-setting pace in this matchup. But, if you can give him any kind of time, the Commanders have a pretty decent group of skill players, and you can get Dallas in certain situations. So I'm very curious to see if Jordan likes the Commanders wide receiver. He put Romeo Doubs in my lineup already. I'm looking for the Commanders component right now.
Jordan, talk to us.
So for me, with the Washington side of things, you're going to get a lot of cover 1, and you're going to get a lot of cover 4 from this Dallas team when they get the lead. You're going to want them to keep this competitive for these pass catchers to operate as a better group because for me, when you get cover 1 coverage, it's man across the board. And I'm not saying that the Commanders have plus matchups, but they have the talent at the receiver position to separate from these Dallas cornerbacks. Deron Bland has been phenomenal. If you're not aware, he has 6 interceptions and he's 1 away from breaking the record for most interceptions for touchdowns in a single season. We've got a long way to go, and I believe they've got some bad matchups on the way where this is one where he can kind of get that done. But for me, the pass catcher that I have most interest in is Terry McLaurin. He's their best receiver, and I know you're fighting fire with fire here, but Dallas, they're gonna get after Howell, and it's gonna have to be him extending plays, and the player that gets open the most is gonna be McLaurin in this matchup.
Let's now turn to the Dallas side of things. Commanders had their big fire sale recently. The defensive line that was a strength is no longer. Ryan, I assume we should be very in on Dak Prescott's passing attack here.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas has been pass-centric for a while. That over the last 4 or 5 games, Prescott's put himself into the MVP conversation. And, after what we saw Tommy DeVito do to this Commanders secondary last week, literally 400 yards and multiple touchdowns is on the table here for Dak Prescott. Offensive line should be able to mitigate. The Commanders still have a very good interior defensive duo in Allen and Payne. They traded their edge rush, like you said. Sweat's in Chicago, and like we'll talk about soon, Jordan, Chase Young's in San Francisco, which probably shouldn't have been allowed to happen. Commissioner Goodell probably should have stepped in for that one. But but Dallas is in position to mitigate their pass rush. Tony Pollard struggled all year. Maybe if you're in a positive game script, he sees enough volume to hit here. But I really like Dak Prescott and the Cowboys passing attack here.
Yeah, like that. The first thing I thought, wasn't it like Nike and Adidas or something? Or was it Adidas and Reebok tried to merge and then it got shut down and they said, you know what, that's just too much market share at once. Something like that probably should have happened with the Niners. We'll talk about them shortly. Jordan, I assume Dak Prescott's going to be one of the featured quarterbacks for our DFS stacks. Assuming that's the case, who are we double stacking him with? Since I know double stacks are often very exciting and encouraged on these 3-game slates.
Yeah, the double stack that I have a lot of interest in. Obviously, we still have to monitor with CeeDee Lamb. He has an ankle injury that Jerry Jones is saying he's getting the thumbs up, but he did have an ankle injury last weekend against my Carolina Panthers. I had to watch that one. It wasn't a fun game to watch. But this Commanders passing defense, they've gone to a zone heavy scheme since they lost Chase Young and Sweat. They're not playing as much man coverage because that didn't work. They've been a little bit better on that end, but the one thing they consistently give up is go routes, 9 routes down the field. And I'm looking at 2 players that I think get you contrarian with your Dak lineup and also pair well with the idea of, CeeDee Lamb or Dak Prescott and the Cowboys getting it going. It's Michael Gallup and Jalen Tolbert. Both of these guys are kind of splitting work right now. They're both seeing the field on like 40 to 42% of the routes. And both of them are the guys that run down the field to kind of clear out CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, to working these crossers, underneath type of stuff. Michael Gallup's been more frequently targeted and actually has a 21% total target share of these 9 routes. So for my Dak lineups, I like Michael Gallup to get one in this game and to get one deep down the field.
I like that there. Speaking of the Cowboys receivers, when we're on Underdog Fantasy, we've already got our Jordan Love higher. We're going to follow that up with a Brandon Cooks higher than 34.5 receiving yards. This line is so low. He has been higher in 4 of his past 5 games. He's an every down player and one of the NFL's best pass attacks. He's going up against the Commanders. 20 wide receivers have been higher than this number through 11 games. That's nearly 2 per game. But if we look at the past 4 games since they began clearing house on defense, at least 2 wide receivers have reached that mark in every single game against them. I think it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. I think it's going to be Brandon Cooks. And Jordan thinks it might be someone like Michael Gallup as well. We're going to take Brandon Cooks higher than 34.5 receiving yards. As Ryan said pre-show, I wouldn't be surprised if he doubles or triples it. Guys, any final thoughts before we move on to the night game?
No, I love the Brandon Cooks line. I think this is a game where, again, I like Gallup from a DFS perspective. He's a very cheap option. He's $800 cheaper than Cooks, and 1 catch for 45 yards and a touchdown can make or break you on this type of slate.
I have 2 comments. First, my teaser, I would like to take Washington, but since Dallas can absolutely obliterate them in 2 phases, passing attack against the Commanders secondary and that pass rush against Sam Howell, I'm gonna play it safe and stick with Dallas to essentially win this game in the teaser. And for you DFS players, I'll say this: I'm not going to play Jalen Tolbert because I'm not a big Jalen Tolbert guy. He's exactly the kind of guy who would mess up my world on Thanksgiving. So if Jordan likes him, you should definitely put him in your player pool.
Folks, we're going to move on to the 3rd game of the Thanksgiving slate, and then we will quickly touch on that Black Friday game. And just a note for everyone out there that thinks the NFL is rigged, the NFL is not rigged, but one thing we know for certain is that Roger Goodell hates the AFC because we have our 3rd NFC exclusive. We're moving. So first we go NFC North, then we hit the NFC East. Now we are hitting the NFC West for the 3rd night game on Thanksgiving. It is the San Francisco 49ers traveling slightly up north to the Seattle Seahawks. Game total of this one's the lowest of the 3 at 43. Right now, the spread is the closest among these 3 games as well at +6.5 for the Seahawks. So still thinking the bettors out there that the Seahawks still lose by a touchdown. The first thing of note here, Drew Lock is probably the starting quarterback for the Seahawks. There has been very little clarity on the Geno Smith triceps injury. We know we can't trust Pete Carroll with any kind of reporting on this. And I'd be pretty surprised if they rush him back on 4 days rest. Ryan, let's hit the Niners side first, though, the more exciting side. Yeah, I think it's time for Brock Purdy and company to smash once again.
I mean, they just have so many different ways they can beat you. Offensively, Seattle's pass rush isn't exactly a big-time pass rush, so they should be clean there. Their secondary is good. I'd even say Seattle's defense has outplayed their offense over the last month and a half, so familiarity with the division. I could see this being where the 49ers offense maybe just hits expectations right around 24 points or so. But again, one of the things for me with San Francisco is technically anyone can have a good game. So I'm very curious to see what Jordan has to say about the 49ers offense.
Jordan, we're going to have some Brock Purdy in our quarterback pool, and if so, who are we stacking him with?
So you should have interest in Brock Purdy, and the biggest thing that comes with it is Kyle Shanahan seems to love to pull out his trick plays here against Seattle. I don't know if you guys remember the play last year to George Kittle, but it was like a motion to Debo. Brock Purdy pumps one way, pumps the other way, and then Kittle up the seam for like a 45-yard touchdown. 49ers can beat you in any way. It just depends on how Seattle wants to approach this game. I think it's a cover 3 situation because you can't stop. You have to stop McCaffrey. And 49ers also enjoy teams going cover 3 because that's the cover Shanahan loves to kill. And he doesn't care to bring a third receiver on the field. He likes bringing Kyle Juszczyk. He likes bringing a second tight end just to help this run game. And as a result, he gets Ayuk or Debo outside one-on-one. And Ayuk this year has been so dominant against that coverage. Last week, I touted Brandon Ayuk because of Tampa Bay's usage of cover 3. Ayuk had 150. It's a similar scheme over in Seattle. They just have better corners to do it. Ayuk is someone that I would have to play with Brock Purdy personally. This is the type of matchup that he gets it done. And then I have a lot of interest in George Kittle. He's just getting more and more usage every single week. He's finally healthy towards these months. Like, this is usually when we see kind of Kittle get banged up and pop up in the injury report. He's been as healthy as I've ever seen him, and he's been performing at that level. Debo Samuel has been a guy for me that I don't mind stacking him, but you need that trick play. You need that screen pass. You need things to go right for him to explode. For me, I think the biggest stance that I'll probably have this weekend is probably not playing Christian McCaffrey, who's going to be 50 to 60% played.
I like that. And the betting markets have actually taken notice. Kittle's props have been in the 30s most of this year. They have now crested 50 receiving yards, taking note that Kittle's having himself quite a fine campaign. Ryan, let's turn to the other side. We're going to hold our nose and we're going to talk about this Seahawks offense with Drew Lock at the helm. What do you have for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty bad for the last 6 weeks. They've been 3-3 over the last 6 weeks. I think they're going to drop 4 in a row now. Seattle, actually, they're going to free fall. And the idea of Drew Lock facing this pass rush is just, that's not good. I know I'm playing the 49ers defense in the majority of my teams that I'll play this week for that reason. Very little optimism. I could see it being a good spot for Charbonnet, given the check down, try to mitigate that pass rush. But otherwise, I have little to no confidence in Seattle's offense.
I agree there. Jordan, I assume Drew Lock will not be a major part of our quarterback pool. Correct me if I'm wrong. And if so, what are the Seahawks one-offs that we are legally allowed to play against this terrifying Niners defense?
Yeah, I think the fact that Chase Young is here, in the impact that he's made in just 2 weeks, seeing him and Bosa run the same moves on the opposite sides of the field and get to the quarterback at the same time. Look at that Trevor Lawrence play. It was ridiculous. This is a matchup where DK Metcalf's still in play for me. And the biggest reason is Drew Lock's going to throw it up. Drew Lock has a big arm. Drew Lock can throw the football very, very far. Hopefully getting all the first team reps will kind of build him some type of chemistry. It worries me about Tyler Lockett and JSN, who are guys that you kind of need to throw in rhythm. But a guy like DK Metcalf, if you remember, Jordan Addison killed the 49ers defense, and it was basically because he outmuscled the guy. He's not exactly big to do it, but he was capable of getting it done. This is a matchup where DK Metcalf just down the field. It only takes one play for him. He's been wanting the ball, and Gino and him have had a very bad season together. Because when DK gets open, Gino doesn't find him, and when he's covered, Gino forces it to him, and DK has been visibly frustrated on the field all year. So I think Drew Lock's just going to throw to him, trust his guy. I don't have much interest in Sharp just because, from a DFS perspective, because of the fact that 49ers aren't blitzing anymore. They're rushing 4, and you have Fred Warner back there who's now not getting any offensive linemen to him because of Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave eating up blocks, and then you got to double team Bosa or Chase Young. And as a result, they're just free flowing and flying around the football. And this is a matchup, divisional game. They're going to be coming down. I wish you could play 2 defenses this weekend. I wish I could just play the Cowboys and the Seahawks at their prices and just take the points added there.
I like that. And folks, Fred Warner, that is 33rd team coworker Fred Warner. Make sure you're checking out the Warner house. It is Fred and his wife Sydney talking shop each and every week. That is on the 33rd team YouTube. If you are a Niners fan, if you're a fan of Fred Warner, you're probably going to enjoy that show. But what you probably won't enjoy is the final higher, lower pick for our entry. We started off with the crowd pleasers, the Jordan Love higher. Then we go to the Brandon Cooks higher. For this one, I am going to take Christian McCaffrey lower than 74.5 rushing yards. To begin with, that's an incredibly high number for any running back. McCaffrey on Sunday just had 21 carries and 5 receptions. That's 26 touches. He's now playing 4 days later. He only weighs 200 pounds. The Seattle Seahawks have allowed under 4 yards per carry to running backs this year. It's one of the better marks. But that's mostly because of their game against Baltimore, when the Ravens running backs ran for 230 yards at 8.5 yards per carry. Now, I know it's bad to just pluck out the good game, but I think if we take that game out, the other 9 games, the Seahawks have allowed just 3.2 yards per carry to running backs. That would rank last in the NFL. Now, I understand that the Niners have one of the better running attacks, but I think it shows that the Seahawks have been quite dominant there, specifically on defense, and have struggled against passing games. This is an incredibly high number to begin with. McCaffrey needing 75 rushing yards and him just having 26 touches on Sunday. This is the scary one, but this is how we will complete our underdog pick'em entry. Jordan Love, higher than 33.5 passing attempts. Brandon Cooks, higher than 34.5 receiving yards. And Christian McCaffrey, lower than 74.5 rushing yards. Underdog Fantasy, promo code 33rd if you're a new user. Gets you the 100% deposit match up to $100. It keeps Jordan Vanek employed. It keeps Ryan Reynolds happy. It keeps me employed as well. Ryan, let's hear your teaser before we hit this Black Friday game.
You know, I don't want to do 3 favorites, but I think that's the move here. You're going to get the 49ers at plus 3.5 for the 10-point teaser. It's actually my favorite leg of the group because even if they lose, I think it's short. Going to make 2 quick actually a comment and a question here. With you all the way with DK Metcalf, Jordan, I think he's going to get 2 or 3 deep shots against this team. That's pretty much their recipe for success here. A special teams or defensive touchdown, big play from DK Metcalf. If they're going to stick in this game, I think that's how. And I want to ask you this question, Jordan, because last year when we first met, we were both very big on the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle element. That's like a very, very rare duo. Is Nick Bosa and Chase Young the pass rush version of that, where this kind of combination is kind of like, I don't want to say unprecedented. I think that's a little aggressive, but I think it's close.
From a systematic fit in what they've built, yeah, that's a very good comparison because they got the interior too. Like,
right,
if they didn't have the interior defense line, this wouldn't be the case. Right. But from a physique standpoint, I mean, Bosa and they've already played together. They used to time each other getting to the quarterback in college. Like they would have back and forths on that. And Chase Young, he fits so easily. Like I think he has 3 sacks already with the 49ers, which is insane. It is. It's one of the best defensive moves 2. They have 2. But regardless, one of the best defensive moves we've seen during a season, one of the star players who's forgotten just because of injuries and stuff. Now he's playing one-on-one, and that's just not going to be fair.
Right.
What's also not fair might be the Black Friday game that we get, because again, we're getting deprived of Aaron Rodgers. This was shaping up to be such an incredible game. Now it is a little bit lesser. We have the Miami Dolphins traveling to New York to face the Jets. Game total for this one's much lower than the ones on the Thanksgiving 3-game slate at 41. The Jets are 10-point home underdogs. Thank you for that, Tim Boyle. We'll get to you shortly. We'll start on a positive note, though. Ryan, this Dolphins offense, it's been a little shaky in recent weeks. What do they need to do to get back on track?
They're a rhythm offense, so that's the primary thing when they're on schedule and things work. I think the Jets are one of the tougher opponents in the league in that sense, because they're going to be able to pressure them, and they have one of the better cornerback groups in the league too. So one thing I'm looking for here is the Jets have struggled against running backs in the passing game. Very curious to see which Dolphin gets the workload there. But with A-Chain possibly sitting out, I'm thinking that's Mostert.
I like that call there. Jordan, who is the pass catcher or pass catchers of interest if we're playing this game on Showdown?
Jalen Waddle. I think he's the key to unlocking it personally. The Jets coverage, look, against the Bills, they just try to fight them, it felt like. Like the whole game was about being chippy after the play, getting in Stephon Diggs' face and trying to like out tough them against the Dolphins. Like I feel like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle just don't care about those kind of things. They don't operate that way. Like Tyreek Hill probably talks trash, but like it doesn't fuel him anymore. Like he's just gonna be the most unguardable player on the planet. I mean, right now, Mike McDaniel just kind of needs to add little things and get the little things right now. I feel like the offense has relied on a basic formation, or from his point of view all season, and teams have found a counter to it. They got to attack the middle of the field from a rushing perspective. They haven't been doing that. They've only been running outside plays, and teams are just not allowing it to happen. They faced some pretty good defense in recent weeks, which attests to it, but this is another Jets defense that is very good. That's the only path that they have of staying in this game. But for me, if Jalen Waddle gets going, you could see Miami roll this team by 20 plus points.
Let's now turn to the Jets side of things. Tim Boyle starting at quarterback. Ryan and I did the waiver wire show earlier today, and I detailed just how bad Tim Boyle has been at the college level and at the NFL level. One of the few quarterbacks that's probably a downgrade, if anything, from Zach Wilson. Ryan, what should we expect here when, unfortunately, we will have to watch probably 20 to 25 minutes of the Jets on offense?
Yeah, we said it on the waiver wire show. I don't understand why Tim Boyle's starting an NFL game. It would not surprise me if he didn't finish this one. When Trevor Siemian gets called on as a long reliever, I think that's very much in play here. And for Miami, their defense has been slowly ascending. Vic Fangio's scheme is starting to work more. They have a quality pass rush that could be problematic in this game. I think this is another step for the Dolphins defense to become more of a factor, because they basically carried their win against the Raiders last week.
Yeah. Ryan, I have to say that's going to be one of my favorite quotes of the week is Trevor Siemian in the long reliever role. We're going cross sport for this one. I love it. Jordan, we might have to play some Jets in Showdown in this game. Legally, you have to play at least one. Who should we play then?
Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson should just get a ton of targets. That's kind of what you're hoping for. The punt returner they have, I think it's Gibson. I don't know if he got hurt last
Gibson. Week. It's a P actually. Yeah.
Gibson, got it. He would be another guy that I have interest in just because of throw the screen. Hopefully he breaks it. Like that's kind of the way that I would approach it from a showdown perspective. But I know you guys just talked about Vic Fangio's defense. Jalen Ramsey is playing one of the best, he's playing like the best corner in football right now. 2 interceptions in 3 games, or 3 interceptions in 3 games, actually. And he could have had more. There's been plays from a film perspective that he's caused the sack because he jumps the other route. Instead of playing the guy he's supposed to be playing at the moment, he jumps the underneath stuff. Mac Jones, it happened against him 3 times or 4 times, and then he just stopped looking to his side of the field. But then you go to the other side of the field and it's Xavier Howard. If people are wondering why Miami's offense or defense has looked extremely well, it's because they finally have the pieces to run it. Against the Eagles, they had 3 corners in completely different positions. Kader Kohu is guarding AJ Brown out wide. Kader Kohu is not a boundary corner. He's a slot corner. And he's one of the best in the league at it. He's finally now inside again. I can't wait to see what this defense does going forward. They've been carrying the offense. They should have beaten the Chiefs just off of their defensive play. Obviously, the Chiefs offense isn't what it used to be, but still Patrick Mahomes, it's still Travis Kelce, and they played awful on offense and still were in that game. And it's credit to that defense. So again, I think you could go defense captain in this one. I think Jalen Ramsey can score. He promised Mike McDaniel a touchdown in his first game, and he picked it off and got to the 3. And Mike McDaniel was upset that he didn't score. He told him it was going to be a pick 6, not a pick 3, because Mike McDaniel was unable to score a touchdown in that drive.
I like it. Folks, that's the Black Friday game. Before we get you out of here with Jordan and Ryan's picks for which underdog will cause the upset among these 4 games, all the work that the 3 of us are doing is on the33rdteam.com. Make sure that you're checking out Ryan at Ryan Reynolds NFL on Twitter. His power rankings, his matchups previews, picks and predictions for each game, what he's betting on for every single game. All that comes out throughout the week. And Jordan, his main slate DFS piece comes out every single weekend, letting you know the stacks to target, exactly what his player pool is going to look like. And make sure that you're following him to keep getting updates on how he's viewing this little mini Thanksgiving slate. He'll be writing up an article for it. We'll have tons of Q&A time in the Discord throughout this week. So that Discord is free. It's linked in all our articles. If you want to ask fantasy start sits, if you want to ask Jordan some DFS thoughts, if you have some betting questions for Ryan or myself, if you have matchups questions for Ryan, whatever you might have, it's all going to be in that Discord. Guys, let's close it out. Jordan, tell me which underdog's going to cause the upset out of these 4, since right now we're looking at 4 games where the favorite is at least a touchdown favorite.
If I had to say which of these teams has the best chance to upset, I think it's the Washington Commanders, and they're the biggest underdog of the group. But we've seen this team fight against the Philadelphia Eagles, push them to overtime, push them in the second game they played them as well. Obviously, some injuries, some nuanced things there, but the Dallas Cowboys obviously are a great team. We've seen them underperform in a ton of matchups. This is a spot for me where Dallas could give up some of these big plays to Howell, who's dropping back and just throwing the ball. And hey, ball bounces one way, tips off of hands for Dak Prescott to throw a pick, and Washington can end up winning this one.
He's Jordan Vanek. I'm Josh Larky. We're sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. We all work for the 33rd team. Ryan, which underdog causes the upset?
People don't want to hear this, Josh, but no underdog causes an upset this Thursday and Friday.